Hello, it's me, Kyle. Welcome to Give Pause Hobby, the channel where I stop to appreciate the things I love to fill my free time with. Today, we're talking about, surprise, surprise, more Old King's Crown. But not in general. Specifically, I'm talking about the part of Old King's Crown that as soon as I heard that it was getting developed, I was super excited. And as soon as I actually got to play it, I was even more excited. And that is about the solo mode with the simulacrum. This is, I've talked about it in a few different places. There's some links up here in the corners, links down below. It's absolutely one of the parts of the game that I think is just fantastic and gives a lot of life to this box. Like, I'm going to get it off my shelf much more than I otherwise would. I'm going to want to play this game as much as I can, but reality is that my scheduling is a little bit tricky to get out and play as much as I want to these days. But that doesn't mean I don't get to enjoy Old King's Crown because of how good this solo mode is. So when I went through and I learned the system, which honestly was not difficult at all to grok. Again, the big one up here is the teach for the solo mode. I won't be going over that today. I'm gonna be just specifically kind of a short, give pause short, video talking about one aspect of the solo mode that really captured my attention. And that's the fact that the way it's built isn't like a specific entity. It's rather a collection of characteristics and components that make up sort of an archetype, which is exactly what they are called. And then that is your opponent for the match, which means in the back of the rule book, it gives you on its page 17, the opportunity to build your own archetype. All right, so the build your own archetype on the back page assumes you know all the steps, all the things included in the simulacrum. You can take all these steps with the modifier cards, the fog cards, a faction, and then how many companies the simulacrum will be working with. And that gives you the heat. So the higher the heat, the greater the challenge. So when I started playing the solo mode, and looking through the fog cards and I was like, okay, that's kind of neat. They all have a different name, different effects. When I started playing them, I realized there's a good amount of variety in the fog cards that are included in the simulacrum components. And they give a really stark difference to what this opponent can accomplish. And the whole thematic background is that this isn't like a specific enemy. This is this strange otherworldly fog with figures moving inside and clicks and whirs coming out from inside. And so some of their strategies or tactics might seem similar to one of the factions in the game, but even when they do, it's still got this like just wrong or just off aspect to them. And the way that you put kind of like that guise together is by which modification and which fog cards you put in. So the original 4 archetypes that the rulebook comes with, Kappa, Industrial Revolution, Deep Gray, and Mother, were one for each of the factions. And they all come with, obviously, their setup specifications, a little bit of flavor text, and a bit of gameplay note, like a mechanical note of what this one is going to prioritize, or what type of gameplay it's going to be difficult to play against it with, or whatever it may be. And I reached out to the Eerie Idol guys, and I said, you know what, this is super cool, because I think this is going to open up a type of community amongst the solo players that other games don't really like. There's not a built-in way to happen, aside from saying, I suppose that's not true. Like in Spirit Island, you could say, hey, I found a really difficult opponent. Play this scenario against this adversary at this level. go ahead. Or even like specify which spirits you want to say, like for this challenge, do it this way. And so I think, that sort of thing can totally exist. But the difference here is it's so easy, it's so compact for you to be able to come up with, and it's not going to, totally specify how exactly the game is going to be played out. A lot of that will depend on which cards are drawn from the maneuver and the resolution decks. But the fog cards are hugely impactful, as are many of the modification cards. Some are a little bit more minor, but some totally change the way that it plays. So it really does, in just a few lines of text, allow people to send from wherever they're at out like a signal to other people to use, which I think one of the first like aha moments I had like this. I don't even remember what the game was called, but back on the DS, it was like a brawler, like a Gundam brawler of some sort, where you're flying around and just have to destroy it, like a shoot 'em up, all the enemies on the screen. And it had this mode before, like, devices were all wireless capable. This was like old school DS. And it had this mode where you could download a level. There's a level custom editor. You download a level by going to this website and clicking play on a little sound bite, and the sounds that came out, the waveform, actually was the data that the microphone would take in and reconstruct the level. And it was such a cool concept to me as like this, like, music educator and like game geek, to be like, they're like taking all that level, they're bringing it down to this like waveform, and then translating it through the internet, and then boop, it pops up when your microphone of your DS picks it up from the speaker. And I don't own the game anymore. I don't even remember what the name is called, but it stuck with me. And this is obviously not as tech requiring. But so when I talked with Eerie Idol, I said, this is, I think, a really cool opportunity. Would it be something of interest that you would want to make for like a community, like a repository for simulacrum archetypes that people have come up with? And I could put together the ones that you already did. I have a form that people could submit their ideas, their designs, and upload it to a file. So what I have now is 2 pages, the original 4, and 4 that I have made. And so from making that so far, I've come up with kind of like the outline of like the document, and can kind of update it as we go and keep it fresh on BGG. So for the time being, this is really me sort of getting the vehicle ready. Because 2 things. One, I know that only a handful of folks out there, only the second wave prototypes had the solo mode even in them. So it's definitely not a widespread thing yet for people to be experiencing and designing based off of how they're playing. So it'll be a little bit down the road when this can actually be utilized, so that the link that will be in the document isn't up there just yet. And that said, there's also in the works a bit of a design reorganization of how these archetypes are created, which will then be reflected in the future version. So this is sort of just like a proof of concept, really early, but something else for us solo game types to get excited about nonetheless. So what I've done is try my best using my skills with the Google Suite, because I don't have the time or money or interest in learning anything more advanced just yet, is to simulate, which is appropriate, the look of the rule book and the layout that they have for these archetypes in the solo rule book. And so I just duplicated the original 4, used those as the kind of like the model. Like if I could get that to look pretty similar to what it's like on the page, that meant I was heading in the right direction, and then I could just kind of replicate that with any further pages. Won't be organized by alphabetization or by heat. It'll just be by time submitted, like date submitted. So I guess at a certain point, I'll probably have to put together an index of, by name or by heat value, because I'm definitely not going to go back and like reorganize all these different things, because that is giving me even more gray hairs thinking about it than I already have. So the 4 that I've come up with, I kind of kept the same design intent of having one of each faction. And again, it's not like there's no gameplay effect aside from removing that faction as something to be played against the simulacrum. But I kind of look at that's kind of a big deal, but also it just gives a little bit of a flavor to, whatever you have on the board. So I have the Battlefield Specter, played with the Uprising, Desolate Outposts, played by the Nobility, Inscrutable Portent with the Clans, and Bellowing Force with the Gathering. So I'll just briefly go through just to show you kind of, the solo rule book. The link for the Kickstarter, first of all, is down below in first of all, he says many minutes into the video, is down below in the description. And you can see the solo rule book there. And if you want to look closer at the rules themselves or the actual archetypes. So the ones I've come up with for Battlefield Specter. For those who know the history, battlefields never fully heal. But in places where the ominous fog gathers, the clicks and creaks from within seem intent to ensure the lands never fully stop fighting either. While this archetype has both defensive and offensive boons, it has but a meager lone company amidst the haze. Additionally, while it may acquire kingdom cards, it seems unaware of their power, making it an easier foe. All right, so again, it's played by the Uprising, 1 company, 0 heat rating, which comes from the fact that even though it has armor plating, which makes it a little bit, more resilient, and Envoy of Tin, which means its herald is going to add some strength to the battle, has Scrap Collector, which means when it gets kingdom cards, it doesn't get a bonus from them, so it doesn't get anything else. The fog cards are just kind of nice ones I thought went along with it, and it's again down below, reported by me. Concealed within the drifting fog. Oh yeah, I did point out, so for the original 4, and if they ever come out with more, because I wanted to leave it open to them. So if anything comes out of Eerie Idol HQ, that will have the label emanating from the Eerie Idol itself, and then the name of the designer, whereas anybody else will have the concealed within the drifting fog and then who reported it. All right, so Desolate Outposts is with the Nobility. Front lines never last forever, but strewn throughout the kingdoms are the crumbling edifices of generations-old bastions. Despite their purpose and defenders being long lost to time, the mysterious fog has awakened old ires. This archetype, especially if you set up under siege by drawing maneuver cards to place the ruins, will make for a slow early game. Thankfully, the haunted rubble is slow to activate its site of power. So this is, I played this one. I haven't actually played Battlefield Specter, but I played Desolate Outposts, played against it. And it's super interesting. So the Under Siege modification card that talked about is where it's putting down a faction the company. It's kind of laying it down in 3 regions or locations, and you can't use those sites. They're considered to be fortified until you win at the region, you choose that location, and you just wipe it from the map. And then I said, I did it where it seems like the rules state that you can choose where those are going to be, but I played it where I just drew the maneuver cards, and it was the castle, the battlefield, and the harvest fields. So it was kind of the ones that I go between quite a bit, and it made it a little bit difficult, especially, like I said, in the early game. So it was, aside from that, Ruined Workshop, and upgraded processor. So upgraded processor means it's going to draw more cards, but Ruined Workshop means it takes more to get its site of power up and running. So it's got that going for it, but it was super fun, and it works really well to have like these crumbling fortresses be the like crumbling fortresses of the Nobility's companies. Inscrutable Portent is another one that I haven't played yet, but I'm excited to try it out. It's a little bit higher, the heat rating of 3. Some places carry the curse of seemingly age-old malice, even without a clear origin. Whether from a story passed down or simply feeling utterly unwelcome, there are places to be avoided. In days like these places seem both numerous as well as more treacherous. With a larger hand and the ongoing threat of turn order, the fog thick enough to lure your supporters away, this archetype will challenge your plans. So, yeah, this is like the Strange Factory and Silver Spies Deserters. So Strange Factory are going to be kind of going through your hand quite a bit faster. Silver Spies is you're going to have to either pay influence or it will take last in the player order. So even if it's leading where it should go first and you can respond to it, it's going to make you give up influence, otherwise it will go after you, which is obviously not what you want to have happen, because then you don't get to respond to anything. And then Deserters, you're going to be losing your people as the game goes on, kind of losing them in the fog. And then, Summoning Incense is going to make for pulling people out of their site of power a little bit easier, and Choking Fear and Shifting Smoke. So these are, I kind of thematically put these ones together, but again, really excited to try this out. Heat rating 3, so a little bit more challenging. The Desolate Outpost is only 1, but I only just barely pulled off a win against it. So the number isn't always truly reflective of what winds up happening. And the last one, I have played this one, Bellowing Force. We thought the sounds were from a single massive beast, intent on keeping its territory to itself. Were it not for reports of the constellation of smaller footprints always accompanying the craterous tracks, we might have never known of the warband obscured within the mist. As the lumbering thing calls out from the fog, the player won't ever know what else it's capable of. Even still, you'll know the threat of force it commands and the dire importance to strike back twice as hard. So this one I thought was really cool, and is kind of the like on-ramp to the fact that there are other ways to make these archetypes like unique, that just like tweak the rule text a little bit. And in this case, for fog cards, lumbering thing and one random fog card. And the whole intent is the one, which is just a huge 15 strength creature, but you don't know the other fog card. And then, every time it goes through the deck, it's going to be adding more fog cards. But right from the beginning, you're not going to know, like when a fog card comes up, the other ones, a little bit of like meta game, which, fog cards it could be. You don't know which one, but like the 3. In this case, it's either that one big creature or any of the others. And some of the others are very specific, like, like depending on what's going on, they're either really good or not so good or just not good at all. And you don't know, but you also know there's 5 companies that this thing throws around, and one of the modifiers, so Clear Skies is the modifier that it only uses 2 fog cards to start, so that brought the heat down a little bit. Sinister Spikes and Bloody Campaign. So Sinister Spikes is going to make its air a little bit more dangerous, and that's going to also serve to help with Bloody Campaign. So this is one of the really cool alternate win condition mod cards that it has. So you're going to put 5 influence here at the beginning of the setup. Each time a player wins a clash, place an influence on the card. Each time the Simulacrum wins a clash, remove 1. If this card ever has 10 here, the player immediately wins the game. You don't have to wait till the end of the year. It's just over. And if there are ever 0 coins here, the Simulacrum wins the game. So this I really like this. The other one, Sever the Head, which I guess kind of appropriately was also on the Gathering archetype for Mother, which is all based on anytime a card is eliminated, which is a little bit trickier. That does not happen as much. This is going to happen all the time. Like every single round, there are 3 clashes that are up for grabs, and it's just you and the sim. So there's no other third party that's going to be like pulling numbers for themselves. So it's going to go back and forth, and it did when I was playing against this. I did not win against this one. It wasn't like a total blowout, but it was, you know, just having the 5 companies that it throws its weight around with is scary, and there were a couple of just like blunders on my part, but it actually did win with this. It didn't win like the normal way with influence, which felt pretty cool because that's like the intent. So yeah, it was really fun to be able to work to make this look like it does, and awesome to breathe life into these new archetypes. I think it's a fantastic system that Ricky Royal and the Eerie Idol folks have put together, and I can't wait to see what other people bring to the archive. So I've reached out to some other folks who I know have prototypes themselves to see if they are interested in developing up their own archetype, and I've heard from a few folks that they said they're gonna, I think, wait until the redesign is done on the solo mode, which is perfectly reasonable. I just got started because I'm so excited with it, and I know that I'll have to just adjust these as I go. But when the game hits actual release and it's on all of your shelves, we'll re-release this in again an actual shorter video, just to say, hey, calling all designers out there, like archetype designers, is a Google form. You fill it out and put your thing in, and I'll keep adding it to a list. So us solo game players will never have a shortage of options to play against, and they really do add a nice difference of flavor to the game. So it's just a fantastic solo mode that they've created for this game, and I can't be happier to already be playing it to tell you about, aside from how happy I'm going to be when I hear other people, like all of the people, because the campaign is already doing awesome, and it deserves to. So when all of the people are playing the solo mode out there, it's going to be a ton of fun. So hopefully in the hazy future, we'll all have archetype archives on our table, and we can just check them off as we go to see which ones we've faced and which ones we've won against. But until then, thanks for taking a pause to give pause, and we'll see you later.